Yep, so let's continue from where we left off in the last part. In the last part of the tutorial, we managed to create an inventory manager, and we moved all the essential functionality that will be shared between our inventories into this manager, and we made sure that everything worked before we moved on. So what we are going to do now is to create our bag so that we can actually open it, or our chest it's called, so that we can actually open it. And our chest is basically just gonna be a new game object, so we can actually just go to our scene here and then click on mana, for example, right click on it and then duplicate it. The difference between our chest and our other items is that it's just gonna be a simple item we collide with, and we're not gonna pick anything up. So first of all, we need to click on the new mana duplicate here and remove the script called item. So right click on item and remove component. We also want to change the color maybe, so maybe you can go to your materials here and right click and create a new material. This new material we can call what can we call it, chest. And as you can see, it looks a little different in Unity 5. I don't know if you have played around with Unity 5 so far, but you can see the new materials that you're making looks different. As you can see, shader, legacy shader, diffuse. So we should basically go in and pick the same, I guess. So let's see, can we find that? Legacy shader, diffuse, there we go. So now we have the same kind of shader here by clicking on it and going to the inspector. So the color is simply going to be some kind of brownish color, there we go. And this one should be applied to our mana 1. So drag it onto mana 1 and then click on mana 1 and rename it to chest. So this is our chest now. And we're going to move the chest to the top of our platform here. And one more thing, we want to be able to open this chest when we are inside a range of it. So right now we would need to take our player and move it all the way into the chest like this to be able to interact with it. But we want to be able to interact with it when we're standing close to it. So to do that, we simply just make the collider bigger on this this chest here. So if we select the box collider here and we just take the size and make it larger, as you can see, the green area here is the collider. Just make it into, let's say it's 3 in both X and Z. Now you can see it's kind of larger. A larger area around the object. So now I can actually interact with it when I'm standing out here. Yes. So we got a null reference here. Doesn't really matter. There we go. So you can see right now the chest has a tag called item, and we're not interested in that because our chest is not an item. So just click on it and add a new tag. Click the plus icon here and then write chest. There we have our chest, and click chest again and select chest. So now we have tagged our chest as a chest if that's what we want to check for later whenever we are playing our game. Yep, that's it for now for adding stuff to the scene. So now let's create our chest inventory. So to create our chest, we can basically click on our canvas here and we can just right click on our inventory and press duplicate. So now we have 2 inventories. As you can see, one is our inventory and this is our chest. So just click on the chest here and rename it to chest inventory so that we can differ the 2 of them. Right now our chest is quite large. We might want to change the slot to 20 or something, so the chest isn't as big as your inventory or something. So right now the chest is placed on top of the other inventory, and we might not want to do that. We want to place it somewhere else. So select the chest object here and select your drag tool, so then you can drag the chest inventory somewhere else on to your screen. So as you can see now, if I play my game, both of these inventories are visible, and when I press my B button, both inventories disappears and appears, as you can see. Right now there shouldn't be any problems moving stuff around between them. I should be able to take my mana potion and place it inside my chest, as you can see here. But I basically just have two inventories right now. I am not able to put them inside the chest here, and I'm able to open up that inventory whenever I want to. Even though I'm standing all the way over here, I can still open up the chest here. So we need to fix that. So to fix that, we should open our player script. So go to your scripts and find your player. And in the player script we already have a public inventory. But we also need to have a reference to the chest that we are standing close to. So every time we encounter a chest in our game and we get close to it, then we should be able to open that specific chest. So we will never be able to open a chest we're not in range of. So first of all, I would make a private inventory here, and I'm gonna call it chest. You can also call it bank or whatever you want to. This is basically just a reference to an item you're gonna stand close by and be able to open. So down here we have some different functionality, and I would like to add some functionality to our update here. We have handle movement already that moves us around, but we also want to be able to open our inventory from within the player. And right now our inventory is handling all this. If we jump to our inventory script here, and we will go to, what is the function called, update. Inside update we have something where we are looking at, if you press the B button, well then we need to show or hide the inventory. And what I want to do is that I want to take all this functionality here and put it into a new function and call that function from within my player, so my player decides whenever I want to open the inventory. So we take that responsibility away from the inventory and give it to the player, so the player can open all these things. So you can actually select this whole function here, like if input.get key down B, and cut it, Control X, and then we go underneath update here and make a public void open. So that's it, that's our open function here. And then you paste this functionality in here. So I'm not interested in looking at the B key here, because the player want to open, the player should decide what kind of key he wants to use to open his inventory. So cut this out and paste it on top of B, and then remove B. So now we have an open function that basically just opens that inventory, that specific inventory here. So if I save this and jump back into my player, then in update on my player I can make an if statement that said if input did get key down key code dot b. So if we press keycode.b, well then I would like to open my inventory. So I'm basically just gonna write inventory.open. And if we save this and jump back into Unity, let's see if we can find the correct one here, well then this should still work the exact same way, because my inventory is this one, and if I click the B button, you'll see that it totally disappears, both of them, when I press B. But we need to differ our chest inventory from our personal inventory here. And right now we're just taking this canvas group and we're setting this alpha to 0, so whenever I press the B button this is changed to 0, so that it basically just fades out like this. So we need to create some new canvas groups so that we can differ our chest inventory from our inventory. And how do we do that? Well, first of all we need to take this canvas group here and we need to remove it. So right click on the canvas group here and remove component, because our canvas is not going to be in control of the hiding and showing of our inventory anymore. But our inventory is going to be in control of itself, and our chest inventory is going to be in control of itself. So click on your inventory, add component, and then search for canvas. And as you can see we have a canvas group here, so add that. and do the exact same thing with the chest inventory. Add component and canvas group. So when you have added those canvas groups, we need to change something inside our script. So go to your inventory script here. Let's see if we can find it. Inventory. And in our start function, we need to create a reference to the exact canvas group that is sitting on the inventory. Right now we have this function, or this line of code that says transform.parent.getComponent canvas group. And the reason that we did that was because we wanted to get a reference to the canvas group sitting on the parent. So my inventory asked the parent, which is the canvas, to get the canvas group component from it. But now the canvas group is sitting on top of the inventory itself, so I don't need to go through my parent to get it. So I can actually remove this transform.parent. So I'm getting my canvas group by saying canvas group equals get component canvas group, and now I have a reference to this exact canvas group on my inventory. So if we jump back into C# and save this, I can close this down and let's see if this works. So right now I have two inventories open. I will press my B button, and as you can see, only one inventory closed down, and I can open this one inventory. So now they actually work independent of each other, but I'm still able to see my chest inventory. So to fix that, jump back into your inventory, into your player, and we create this private inventory called chest. And we need to make some functionality here that says if input.get key down, key code dot, and you can put whatever key you want. I'm going to use E because E is usually the use button in lots of games. Then we're going to say if chest isn't equal to null. So if our chest exists, well, then we want to open it. Then we want to say chest.open. So we are going to check, when we press our E button, we're going to check, well, are we close to a chest? If we if this is null, well, then we can open our chest. So we need to be able to set our chest somewhere, and we can do that in a function down here, because here we have an onTrigger enter. Right now we're checking if we are colliding with an item, and then we pick it up. But if you remember from before, we already took our chest here and we said that the tag is chest. So if we jump back into our code and say, well, if other.tag equals chest, well, then we know that we just collided with a chest, and we need to set it so that we can actually open it. So we're basically just going to say chest equals other.getComponent chest script. So we want to get a chest script from our chest so that we can actually open it. So we need to create this chest script here. So if we just outcomment this for now, and we will go to Unity and create this script so that we can actually access it from here. So whenever our player collides with the chest, he gets a reference to that chest script so we can open it. So back in Unity, you go to your scripts, you create a new script by right-clicking, create C# script, and then we write chest script, for example, and double-click it to open it. See if we can find it right here. Yes. So this chest script doesn't need to have a lot on it. It basically just needs to have a reference to the inventory that it is referring to. So every single chest in our game is going to reference an inventory, so that when our player walks close to that chest and tries to use that chest, well, then the inventory is going to tell the player, well, I have an inventory, then the chest is going to tell the player, well, I have an inventory on me that I'm referring to, and you can open it by pressing the E button. So basically the chest script is just going to have a public inventory called chest inventory. Just like that. So that is the chest script. this is the inventory that the chest is referring to, and this is the inventory that the chest is serving to the player whenever the player tries to open up the inventory. So save this and go back into Unity, and then you can click on your chest here and click add component and then search for chest. And as you can see, you have your new chest script. And if you add that chest script by clicking, you'll see that the chest inventory here is empty, and the chest inventory is the inventory that my chest should refer to. So you just take this chest and you drag it onto here. So now my chest is actually referring to something it can provide for the player when the player asks for it. So if we jump back here and go to our, our player script, we zoom in again, we'll see that, well, if we collide with a chest, we will say, well, chest, what kind of inventory are you referring to? And I would like a reference to it so that I can open it. And we're going to say chest dot chest inventory. So now my chest here is actually referring to the chest that I'm standing nearby. Okay, so besides that, we also need to be able to null it again, because when the player walks away from the inventory, we need to remove it so that we can't open it when we are further away from it. But let's test this out before we do too many things. Let's see, we already wrote that when we press E, we want to open our chest if it exists. So we can't open it in the beginning because it's null, but as soon as we get close to a chest, we will set chest to something so it's not null. So let's see here, have our chest, we have our trigger on it, we can collide with it. This should work. Let's see. Actually, I want to hide my inventory from the get-go. I want to set the alpha to 0, and I want to set my chest inventory alpha to 0, so they're hidden. Let's see. If I press E now, nothing happens because I can't open it. And let's see if I get close to the chest here and press the E button. Well, then I just opened my inventory. And this is actually, yes, this is not the chest inventory I'm opening on E, so maybe I made a wrong reference just before, sorry about that. Let's see if we click on the chest here. It is the chest inventory. So it is the chest inventory, so the mistake must be inside the script. I have a hunch that my canvas group here is static, yes. So inside my inventory, I have a static canvas group, which means that it only has one instance. And this is not very good when we have to have a specific canvas group for each and every one inventory. So basically you can just remove the static here, and then you need to save your script. So now it says an object reference is required to a non-static field method property inventory canvas. So let's see, return canvas group. I'm actually not even sure that we need this anymore. Let's try to remove it and see what happens. Yes, so there are no errors here. So basically you need to go into your script and you need to find your canvas group inside your inventory in the fields, and you need to change that canvas group from being private static just to being private, because down here we're saying canvas group equals get component, and when it's static, well then we only do this, we overwrite the original one every time we do it, so we only have one instance, and now we have two instances because it's not static anymore. So let's jump back into our editor here, and let's see what do we have here. Inventory does not contain definition canvas group. There we go. So our slot tries to access the canvas group here, and this canvas group should be accessed from within our inventory manager instead. But actually I don't want to put it in my inventory manager. I actually just want to add a canvas group to each slot, so each slot knows what canvas group it belongs to. So I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this inventory.canvas group and replace it with a canvas group within the slot itself. So up here, let's go to our fields. Sorry that I didn't foresee this. And here we're going to make a private canvas group. Call it canvas group. So this is the canvas group that each slot is going to refer to. So double click on your arrow and go to your onPointerClick function here inside your slot. And here we're just going to write canvas group. So now you have your own canvas group, but we need to set this canvas group before we can use it, because right now it's a null reference and we're going to have a problem if we don't set it. So we need to go to our start function inside our slot. It's very far up. Here we have start, and down here we need to say if transform.parent isn't null. So if we have a parent, and the reason that I'm checking if I have a parent is because we have a slot out here, moving slot here, which doesn't have a parent, and this moving slot doesn't have a parent with a canvas group. So we will get an error if we try to run this script, because it has the slot script on it already. And just to avoid complication, we're just gonna check out if our slot has a parent, because every single slot inside our inventory has a parent, and that's why we're checking up on this transform.parent. Then we're gonna say canvas group equals transform.parent.getComponent. Zoom now again so you can read. And I'm gonna get the canvas group from my parent. So each and every slot is actually sitting on a, now this should disappear. Yes. Each and every slot, if we run this, we'll see that our inventory has a lot of slots, and their parent is the inventory, and the inventory has the canvas group on it. So that's why I'm saying transform.parent.getComponent canvas group. So every slot refers to the canvas group that the parent has on it. So now we made a workaround this little error we had here with the canvas group in our onPointerClick here. So save, and let's try again. Let's see, now we have our chest inventory with our canvas group, and we are sure that they have each of them have a canvas group inside their inventory script here, because we made it non-static. So if we play our game and let it fall to the ground, if I open B, I open this inventory, and if I go close enough here and press E, well, then I open the other inventory, which is my chest inventory. As you can see, I press E and this one opens instead. But as you can see right now, when I go away from this, I can still open and close the inventory for the chest, and that's not very convenient, or it is very convenient for the player, but it's not very nice for the gameplay that you can actually just go to a chest and then run around in your game world and open an extra inventory just like this. So I'm standing out in a field picking up some items, and I can just take some items here and put them inside inside my what's it called, inventory in the city or something, just by standing out in the field and doing that. So to fix this, we need to add an onTrigger exit event as well. As you can see here, I'm getting unassigned reference exception when I try to click one of my items here. Don't worry about it, we're gonna fix that in a moment. I am aware of this exception, so just bear with me. I'm gonna fix this open and close functionality first. So let's fix the open and close functionality by going into our player script. And inside your player script, you need to go to the bottom of it under the onTrigger enter, and here you need to write private void. Just gonna scroll down so you can see some of them more. onTrigger exit. If I only could spell, yes, and then collider other. So to make sure that we can't open our inventory when we move away from the chest, we just need to say if other.gameObject.tag equals chest. Well, if we move away from the chest, well, then if chests, then we're simply just gonna say chest equals null. So that's the first step. So if we save this, then we shouldn't be able to open our chest up anymore when we move away from it. So save, go back into Unity, and let's see, if we go into it here, we can open and close it. If I move away here, I'm unable to open it. but there's still one bug. I can move close to this and open it and move away, and then it's still open. So I would not be able to close it anymore, but it's just open on my screen. And to fix that, we need to add a little more functionality. We need to make a property inside our inventory that tells us if the inventory is open or closed. So I'm gonna make a private bool called isOpen, and under it I'm gonna create a property. And you can create properties by right-clicking, refactor, encapsulate field, or writing this code by yourself. So now I have a property that says if it's open, and I need to set this to true or false. So down here in my start function, I'm gonna say is open false from the get-go, because it's not showing in the beginning. And then I'm gonna go to my fade in and fade out functionality. Let's see if we can find it here. Just gonna search for it, fade out. There we go. So we have our coroutine called fade out, start coroutine, fade in. We need to find the actual routines. Give me a sec. There we go. Or actually, I want to find the open function. That makes more sense. Sorry about this. Open. See if we can find it. There we go. So here we have our open function inside our inventory, and this is where we need to tell if our inventory is open or closed. So down here, inside if canvas alpha is larger than 0, and then we're fading it out, well, then is open is false, because right here we are closing our inventory, and down here we are actually opening it because we're fading it in. So here we can say is open equals true. So we're making sure that our inventory knows that it's closed right now because it's false, and we're making sure that the inventory knows that it's open right now because it's true. So now that our inventory knows if it's open or closed, we can go back to our player, and inside the onTrigger exit we can actually make an if statement that says if chest that is open. If it's open, then we're just gonna say chest.open, because then we're gonna close it. This open function, maybe we should rename to something else, but open, just if the inventory is open when we call open function, it's gonna close it, and if it's closed when we call the open function, it's gonna open it. So it's just reversing the state of the inventory right now. So if we save this and go back into Unity here, and we go close this one and open it, we see that we can open our inventory. When we move away from it, it fades away, so we can't use it anymore. If we go close to it again, we can open it one more time, close it again, we can open it, and we can move away, and then it fades out. So now we have the functionality for opening our inventory separately, and we have the functionality whenever we move away from our chest, then we won't be able to open this inventory anymore because our player doesn't have a reference to it. So now that we have fixed that, we have one more bug that we need to tend to. This bug is the one wherever you open your inventory and you click with your first mouse button, you'll get this missing component exception. And this exception is thrown because it says there's no canvas group attached to the inventory. But if we look at our inventory, you'll see that we already have a canvas group attached to it. But if you look in the prefab folder here, and you click on your slot, you'll see that this slot has an Onclick function, and this one is referring to an inventory script which is set on this prefab here. And this prefab doesn't have a inventory, a canvas group, attached to it. So this is why it complains about that, because we are creating all our slots from this function here, and we're creating all our slots from this prefab. So all our slots that are in our scene has a reference to this inventory instead of the inventory in our scene. So we could start playing around with finding the inventory in our scene and assigning it and everything, but there's actually an easier way of doing this. We can do this with a simple line of code in our script. If we go to our inventory here, and for me it is line 563. If you want to find the specific line of an error, you can open up the console and see that down here it's written that inventory move item, this is the function, and it's inside assets, inventory, scripts, inventory CS, on line 563. So you might have it on another line, so you can just go here and find the correct code. If you don't have line numbers, it's inside the move item function, and it's the second condition here, else if. So what we need to do is that we basically need to say clicked, because we just clicked an item and this is the slot we just clicked. So this to get the current inventory this slot is sitting on, we can say clicked the transform, the parent, the get component. Actually we don't need to say get component. Yeah, okay, get component, sorry. Inventory is open. So we are clicking on, we're checking up our clicked object here, we are getting the parent, and then we are getting our component from it, which is the inventory. So we are getting the exact inventory this item is, this slot is sitting on, and then we're checking if the inventory is open, and it's only if it's open that we want to use it and create our hover icon and move it around. And before we are looking at the alpha value, and since we can't access the canvas group the same way and everything, we're just gonna make sure that whenever we create our slots, let's run it here so you can see, we're gonna take the slot. If we click the slot, for example, we're gonna say, well, we have an inventory, which is the parent, and this inventory has an inventory script on it, and the inventory script has an is open property that actually tells us if it's open or not, and if we should move around our items. So let's see if this works. If it does, we need to figure out what else we should do. So I'm gonna pick up some items here, and if I click on this, I was able to pick up my item, and I can place it somewhere else in my inventory. Okay, with that settled, let's see if we can place our stuff inside our chest. So I'm close to my chest now, and I'm gonna open it on E. Then I'm gonna take my mana potions and place them inside my chest, and I'm also gonna take my health potions. I'm gonna walk away, and I'm gonna go back to my chest because I figured out that I actually want to keep one of my mana potions. I'm gonna open it, click here, and put it back into my inventory. So if you noticed that whenever I click on or hover over this thing, you'll see that the tooltip actually pops up behind behind my chest inventory here, and the same goes for my split item here. You'll see that the edge of it actually appears behind the inventory. So the reason that it appears behind the edge is because of the order inside the canvas hierarchy. If you can see here, the inventory is on top, which means that it's rendered first, and then the tooltip is rendered, and the stack size is rendered, and then the chest inventory is rendered at the end, which means that this chest inventory is going to appear on top of the tooltip. So to fix this, we need to take the chest inventory and move it underneath here. So the inventory, chest inventory, and the tooltip and the stack size back is after. So if we run our game again and open up our inventories, let's try to do like this. Press E and we open this up. You'll see that everything appears on top of both inventories now, and I can shift click to split this, and I'll be able to see everything. So that was a little fix for that. So remember, if you have something behind another thing and you want it to render first, well then you always need to remember to put the things that you need to be rendered in front in the bottom of the hierarchy here. Okay, so let's have a look at the save and the load function. Right now we have two buttons. We have a save button and a load button, and each of them only refers to the inventory, which means that they both refer to the same inventory, so you can only load and save the inventory that the player has. So let's see if we pick up some items here and we open up both of the inventories here, and I decide to store my sword in my inventory, in my chest inventory, and I'm gonna save this, and then I'm gonna close my game and open it up again, and I'm reloading my my game. So I'm loading, and I have like 2 items here, which is my mana potion and my health potions. And then I go to my bank to check out my sword I just stored there, and it's gone. And the reason that it's gone is because that I only saved this inventory, because the save button has a reference to the inventory here, and the load button has a reference to that inventory. So I need to make some general functionality that saves every single inventory in my game. And I can do that by opening my tag here, add a tag, and I'm gonna add a new tag called, what should I call it, container. So this tag needs to go on every single inventory in my game. I can actually rename this to inventory, it makes more sense. There we go. So we have an inventory tag, and it needs to go on all single inventories in my game. So first of all, I'm gonna select my inventory inside my canvas, gonna give it the inventory tag, and I'm gonna take this inventory and give it the inventory tag as well. So I need to create a new function, a new save and a load function in my inventory manager. And I can go to my inventory manager here, and I'm gonna create public, sorry, I'm just gonna zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna make a public void save. This is my save function. And then I'm gonna make a public void load. And these 2 functions need to be called from my scene. So if I open up my load button here, and instead of using the inventory, I'm just gonna take the inventory manager and drag here on the empty slot. Then we're gonna go here, inventory manager, and I'm gonna take the load function. And the same goes for the save function. I'm gonna take the inventory manager and replace the inventory. Go to inventory manager, and then click on the save function. So now the load button calls the load function from my inventory manager, and the save button is going to call the save function from my inventory manager. So if we jump back here, we need to make a reference to every single inventory in our game. So I'm going to make a game object. What's it going to call? I'm going to make a game object array, and it's going to be called inventories. And this is going to be equal to game object that find objects with tag, and then it's going to be inventory. Yeah, just like that. So it's going to be equal to, of course, sorry. So here we are going to say that we are creating a an array of inventories, and this one is going to contain every single game object with the tag inventory in my game. So if I have 10 chests hidden around in my level, well, then this object here, or this array here, is going to contain every single container, like every single inventory. So it's going to contain 10 inventories. Then I'm going to say for each game object inventory, it's going to go like that, in my inventories. So for every inventory inside the inventories array, which is all inventories in my scene, well, then I'm gonna say item that get component, sorry, not item, inventory, sorry, that get component inventory dot save inventory. So I'm gonna save. So when I press the save button, it's gonna save every single inventory in my game. And I can actually just copy this and paste it down here, and then call load inventory instead. That one will. There we go. So now my save button is gonna save all inventories in my game, because I'm gonna find them here, store them here, and call save of all of them. And it's gonna load every inventory in my game, because I'm gonna find every single inventory, store them here, run through them, and then load all of them. So let's give it a go. Actually, on second thought, there's one more thing we need to do to make this work. I'm actually going to show you the bug before we fix it, so that you will understand what we're doing here. If we run this game, and I would just pick up some different items. Let's pick something up here again. And I would open up my inventory here, and I put something in it. and I would save it, and then I would replay my game here and load it. Well, then I'm suddenly not able to open up my or you would think I'm not able to open up my chest inventory, but actually I am able to open it up because I just loaded my chest inventory as my normal inventory, because in my save function I never told it to differ the chest inventory from the actual inventory. So right now my chest inventory and my actual inventory contains the same things because I just saved them and loaded them as the same thing. Because if I would open my my chest inventory and delete one item here, and I go back and open my normal inventory, you'll see that, yeah, okay, my normal inventory has both items in it, but my chest inventory here only has one of them. So I need to tell my inventory to differ the two objects. I hope you follow me here. And that's inside the inventory function here. Inside the inventory function, inside the inventory script, we should go to the save function, save inventory function, and to the load inventory function, because it's here that we need to tell these functions here which object we're saving this from. So whenever we save something, we just need to add the game object name to it. So whenever you create a new chest in your game, you need to call it a unique name so that you know which one you're loading. So we need to say GameObject.name plus this. So this just saves the GameObject name plus the content and everything. So if we do like this and add everything just like this, well, then we should be able to differ the two inventories. So everywhere you are setting something, set string, set float, set something, and everywhere you are using get float, get a string, get anything through your player prefs, well, then you need to say GameObject.name plus in front of it so that we can differ it. Because before we would have just slot, let's say we load our game, we had slot size, and it would be equal to 10, for example. And our player pref would just load this into everything because it can't differ the chest from our inventory. Right now it's going to be chest inventory slot size, and we're going to have another line saved in our player prefs called inventory, just inventory like this. Did I spell it right? Inventory slot size like this. So we have two different names here so that our load function can differ them. That's basically what we're doing here. So let's see, we have GameObject.name here, and down here we also need to add it to the X and the Y position. So that's it. Now we have actually saved the GameObject.name into our save function, and we have put it into our load function so that we can load the correct values. So if we jump back here and play our game, and we run our game again, and we pick up some items here, and I figure out that I want to save this sort for later by putting it into my chest here, and I save my game. Then I stop playing my game, and I go back into my game, and I'm loading it. And when I load my game, I open up my inventory and my chest, and I have all my items. So my inventory is placed, my chest has a sword placed in it, and my inventory is placed correctly over here. And I can take it out, of course, and everything. So one last thing we need to handle before we are 100% done with this part of the tutorial is the movement. As you can see right now, if I play my game, let's right play it, open my inventory and this one, and I will try to move one of these, you'll see that they pop on top of each other, and that's not very convenient, because I would like to be able to move one inventory item at a time. So to do this, we need to add some new events to our scene. So to fix this, we can basically jump back into our script, and if we go to our inventory script here, we will have somewhere where we are looking at mouse button 3, I think it is. Let's see, move inventory. We have it here, and we should use it somewhere. There we go. So in our update function, yes, in our update function, in the bottom of it we had input.get mouse button 2 it was. And here we are trying to move our inventory. So basically we don't need this code anymore, because I'm gonna change it so that if you mouse over the inventory and try to drag your mouse on it while holding it down, well, then you're gonna move the inventory instead of pressing the middle mouse button. So if we cut this move inventory and delete this function or this if statement here, we can make a new function underneath here called public void onDrag. And all this function needs to do is to call the move inventory function. And then we need to save this, and then we need to jump back into Unity, I think. Give me 1 sec, I need to think. Yeah, we need to jump back into Unity. Sorry about that, I'm getting a little tired apparently. And then we need to find our inventory. So if we start with our inventory, we will have to set up a new event on it, and that's as an onDrag event, or a trigger at least. So click on your inventory, go to add component, and then find trigger, and then you'll see there's something called an event trigger, and this trigger can be triggered, for example, if your mouse drags over it. So we're gonna add a new event trigger, and we're gonna click add new event, and then we're just gonna select the drag, so that's when you drag over it. And when you select the drag event, then you need to press the plus, and you need to select the object and what kind of function you need to call. So the inventory needs to access itself. Select the function, go to inventory, and select the onDrag. So now the inventory onDrag function is going to be called whenever you put your mouse over it and drag it. So let's just demonstrate this. Opening the inventory. If I put my mouse here, I hold it down and drag it, well, then I can move it around. You need to notice something, that you need to be very precise when you do this, because if I hold my mouse over a button and drag, well, then nothing is going to happen, because the item here, because the mouse needs to drag over the inventory. So you could make your inventory a little easier to drag by making a border up here, so you can put your mouse on that border and drag it, because right now you need to place your mouse between the slots, hold your mouse down and drag it, and then you can drag your inventory around. So I know it's not the most optimal way of doing it, but it makes it, it's the fastest way just to demonstrate this. We can always change it later if a lot of requests are coming up with about making this easier or more usable. Well, then I'm gonna figure out another way of doing this. Same goes for the chest inventory. We need to add an event trigger. We need to add event, and we need to add the onDrag event, which is called whenever you put your mouse over one of the UI elements and drag it. Then we need to put plus, and we need to take the chest inventory, and we need to select the inventory and onDrag. So if we open up our game now, we can, for example, let's load our game first. Now we have loaded our inventories. We want to place this one down here. We can place it under the buttons, and we can say, yeah, well, this inventory should also be placed somewhere here. Then we can save our inventories, close our game, open it up again, and now when we load our inventories, see that this one is placed here and the other one is placed on top of it. That wraps up this part of the tutorial. If you find any bugs or any things you would like to add on to this, well, then just write me a message or post a comment about it, and I'll see what I can do. The next big thing in this inventory tutorial is adding all this equipment, so that we can actually equip some different items and increase the player stats and everything. So we'll be using some of the same functionality here for opening an equipment tab, and then we'll be able to equip these different items there and take them from an inventory and drag them over there. So thank you very much for watching, and again, thank you to everyone who is supporting me by either contributing with the requests and adding some nice comments to my channel, or subscribing to my channel. That's so awesome. And thanks for everyone who used their money to buy my projects and download them, and everyone who supported me by becoming a patron. And remember, if you become a patron, you can get all my projects just for $5. And if you support me with some other levels in there, you can also get my help to fix some of your normal programming projects. You can go to the page in the description below to check it out and see what options there are. Because if you have some problems with any of your projects and you support me as a patron, well, then I'll also help you incorporate any of my tutorials in your own project. Or if you support me on a different level, I can also help you with anything else in a private Unity project as well. And remember, all this is of course usable in any commercial product. So thank you very much for watching.